Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mini Books Podcast with your host, Gloria and Rogan. And today we are excited to dive into Special Book with you. We picked this one because it has really important lessons to share, and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started. All right, so have you ever noticed how people are always saying no regrets, like it's some kind of badge of honor?
Yeah, it's everywhere, right?
But it's kind of funny because you just know deep down they're totally going to regret something eventually.
Right. It's like they're setting themselves up for it.
It's like they'll be singing, "No, je ne regrette rien" at the top of their lungs, while simultaneously trying to scrub that no regrets tattoo off their arm.
Oh, yeah, totally. Speaking of which, did you read that part in Daniel Pink's book, The Power of Regret?
About the guy with the tattoo?
Yeah, Bruno Santos, even H.E. regretted it. Like, come on.
You can't make this stuff up.
You'd think that would be all the proof we need that this whole no regrets philosophy is flawed.
It's like those bumper stickers you see.
Oh my gosh, yes.
No regrets, plastered right next to "My kid's an honor student."
Right. But the truth is, trying to live a life completely free of regret is just not realistic.
Yeah.
And the science backs this up.
So you're saying even Edith Piaf herself probably had a few things she'd take back.
Think about it. She lived a big life.
Yeah.
Intense. Lots of tough choices.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some she later regretted. I mean, abandoning a child, battling addiction, those don't exactly scream no regrets, do they?
Definitely not. And you know what else says regret to me? The tattoo removal industry.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It's booming. People spending tons of money to erase those bold statements, those no regrets they were so sure of.
It shows how much we misunderstand regret. We've been taught to think of it as this awful thing, a sign of weakness. But it's not. It's a human experience.
Yeah.
We all have regrets.
It's normal.
Exactly. And what Pink does so well in his book is he helps us understand this universal experience.
He breaks down why we feel it, how it affects us, and most importantly, how to use it to make us better. Okay, so regret is normal. But why does it feel so awful sometimes?
Right?
Like it can really mess you up.
He can.
You know, in Pink's book, he talks about those Olympic athletes.
The bronze and silver medalists?
Yes. The bronze medalist is ecstatic, right? But the silver medalist is devastated. You'd think it'd be the opposite.
It's such a great example of how our brains work. We're wired to zero in on what could have been, even if it makes us feel worse.
So instead of being happy with what they achieved, they're stuck thinking about what they missed.
Exactly. It's called upward counterfactual thinking. Basically getting hung up on a better outcome that didn't actually happen.
So the silver medalist is all, if only I had pushed harder, I could have won gold.
Yep. And the bronze medalists, they're thinking, at least I got a medal. I could have got nothing.
That actually makes more sense to me.
Right. It's called downward counterfactual thinking, focusing on a worse outcome. It seems more logical, but our brains are drawn to the drama of if only.
Why would our brains be like that? It seems kind of mean.
It's not about being mean, it's about survival. That if only, thinking uncomfortable as it can be, it forces us to analyze our mistakes.
So we learn from them and hopefully don't repeat them.
Exactly. It's like our brain's way of saying, hey, pay attention, let's avoid this situation next time. The at least thinking is more like a participation trophy.
Feels good in the moment, but doesn't really teach you anything.
Exactly.
Okay, so my brain is just trying to protect me from a lifetime of silver medals by making me fixate on the gold I missed.
Pretty much. It's a tough love approach to self-improvement. But look, regret is a lot more nuanced than just these Olympic scenarios. Pink digs into 4 core types of regret we all experience.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it's not all about romantic regrets or career regrets either.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Okay, so spill it. What are these 4 core regrets? And how can I avoid becoming a cautionary tale myself?
All right, well, first up, we've got what Pink calls foundation regrets. It's that feeling of, if only I'd built a stronger base.
Okay, I'm listening.
So, like, maybe you're thinking, man, if only I hadn't blown all my money on those concert tickets, I could actually afford rent.
Ouch, yeah, that's relatable. It's like the adult version of the ant and the grasshopper fable, right?
Exactly. Pink tells this story about a guy named Jason Drent who kind of just coasted through his 20s and 30s having a blast, not really thinking about the future. Then, bam, 40 hits him, and he's like, wait a minute, I have no savings, no real career, no foundation.
Yeah, this is a bit too real. I feel like that's a common fear, right? That whole, if only I had been more disciplined, more prepared thing.
Totally. And then we've got boldness regrets. This one's all about the risks we didn't take, the missed opportunities.
Oh, like romantic regrets.
Those two, but it can be anything. Passing on a job opportunity, not speaking your mind when you had the chance.
Like Bruce in Pink's book, the guy on the train. He meets this amazing woman but doesn't have the guts to get off at her stop, even though she's totally into him. Then he gets a letter from her, but it's too late. I was like, nah.
Right. It's heartbreaking. And it shows how often these boldness regrets are tied to what ifs. What if he'd just gone for it? What if they'd fallen madly in love?
Ugh, the worst. Okay, what's next?
Moral regrets. These are the ones that really weigh on us. The if only I'd made a different choice regrets.
So less about missing the subway and more about, like, not being there for a friend or those little white lies that got out of control.
Exactly. Pig talks about how we make moral judgments. It's not always these huge, life-altering decisions. It's the smaller everyday choices, too. How we treat other people, whether we act with integrity.
And those choices can come back to haunt us. He has some really powerful stories in the book. People who bullied others, cheated on their partners, were dishonest in ways they deeply regret.
It shows how much those seemingly small moments matter. They really shape who we are.
Okay, so that leaves one more type of regret.
Yep, connection regrets.
Yeah.
These center around relationships, romantic ones, friendships, family.
If only I had stayed in touch, or if only I had told them how much they meant to me regrets. Oof.
Yeah, those are tough. Like the story about Amy and Deepa. They were best friends growing up but drifted apart. It's so easy to let fear get in the way of reaching out.
That one got to me. It's a good reminder to make the effort. Tell the people you care about that you care about them.
Absolutely. Connection is so important.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from regrettable tattoos to Olympic athletes to the 4 flavors of regret. But this can't all be about dwelling on the past, right? We've got to do something with these regrets.
Exactly. And that's where Pink's book gets really practical. He gives us a 3-step process to turn regret into action.
Sorry to interrupt you guys. If you're enjoying this podcast, then don't forget to check out our official YouTube channel, Mini Books Podcast, and subscribe for more great podcasts like this one.
To use it as a tool for growth and making better choices.
Okay, I like the sound of that. What's step 1?
It's all about self-disclosure, getting those regrets out of your head and into the open.
So talk to someone, a friend, a therapist.
Exactly. Or even just journal about it. The important thing is to express it.
It's amazing how much lighter that can make you feel.
Right. And the research backs this up. Putting our feelings into words, whether spoken or written, has huge benefits for our mental health.
Step 1, share the burden. What about step 2?
Step 2 is self-compassion. This one can be tough because a lot of us are pretty hard on ourselves.
Tell me about it. My inner critic is brutal.
Well, this is where self-compassion comes in. Pink talks about Kristen Neff's research, which shows that treating ourselves with kindness and understanding like we would a friend is so much more effective than beating ourselves up.
So instead of thinking, I'm such an idiot for doing that, it's more about, okay, everyone makes mistakes. What can I learn from this?
Exactly. It's about acknowledging the regret without letting it define you.
Pink actually gives some great questions to ask yourself, like, would I treat a friend this way for making the same mistake? Or what can I learn from this to do better in the future?
Those are really good questions. Okay, so we've talked about self-disclosure and self-compassion. What's the final step in this regret-busting process?
The final step is self-distancing. It's about getting some perspective on those regrets, seeing them from a more objective viewpoint. That's easier said than done, though, right? Especially when you're in the thick of it.
It's true. But Pink has a great suggestion. He calls it the fly-on-the-wall technique.
Okay.
So you imagine yourself as an outsider observing the situation, like you're watching a movie, not living through it.
So it's like hitting the pause button on your own drama and taking a step back. I like it.
Right. It helps you see things more clearly. And another helpful technique is time distancing. Ask yourself, how will I likely feel about this in 5 years, 10 years? What feels huge right now might seem a lot smaller with the passage of time.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
So to recap, we can transform those if-onlys into next times by talking about our regrets, showing ourselves compassion, and gaining some perspective.
Exactly. And that leads us to Pink's final thought-provoking point. It's this idea of regret through the windshield, not just the rearview mirror.
Oh, I like that. So we're not just looking back at past regrets, but also looking ahead, anticipating what we might regret in the future.
Exactly. He gives the example of Jeff Bezos and his regret minimization framework. It's all about imagining yourself at 80 years old and asking, what will I regret not doing?
Wow, that's powerful. It really makes you think long term.
Right. But there's a potential downside here. Focusing too much on what you might regret in the future can lead to overthinking and second-guessing yourself.
So it's a balance, right? Use it as motivation, but don't let it paralyze you.
Exactly. And this ties into Pink's point about maximizers versus satisficers. Maximizers are always striving for the absolute best, the perfect choice, which, ironically, often leads to more regret.
Because they're always wondering if they could have done better.
Exactly. Satisficers, on the other hand, aim for good enough. They make a decision and move on.
It sounds like satisficers are generally happier.
They often are. The takeaway here is that learning to be more of a satisficer might be the key to living a happier, more fulfilling life with fewer regrets.
So it's not about erasing regret completely, but about understanding it, learning from it.
Right. Regret, when we approach it with self-awareness and compassion, can be a powerful catalyst for growth. It can help us figure out what truly matters and lead us toward a more meaningful life.
I love that. So don't fear regret, embrace it, learn from it, and use it to write your own amazing story. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights and key learnings, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Mini Books Podcast, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Remember, this is Mini Books Podcast.